closing argument.
2 years later, when promoting the biggest role of her career until this trial, Ms. Heard presented herself to the world as a public figure representing domestic abuse. The headline of the op-ed featured the term sexual violence, even though she had never before accused her ex-husband of such a heinous crime. Ms. Heard and her lawyers love to remind you of how the op-ed did not mention Mr. Depp by name. But Ms. Heard made sure that there would be no mistake about who she was referring to. She inserted 2 years ago, so the world would remember the photo of a battered woman, the mark on her face standing outside the courthouse, and they would once again see Mr. Depp as the villain, this time in full swing of the Me Too movement. But what was happening behind closed doors was quite different from what Ms. Heard presented to the world. The exact opposite, in fact. There is an abuser in this courtroom, but it is not Mr. Depp. And there is a victim of domestic abuse in this courtroom, but it is not Ms. Heard.
Oof, I think that's all you need to hear. What was really, I think, powerful about this is her calling out the Me Too movement and bringing that into the argument, because that was in full swing when Amber Heard went and made these accusations against Johnny Depp, not just of physical, but emotional and sexual abuse in their relationship. And it points out something that we should all probably talk about, and we all probably wouldn't be talking about if it wasn't for this massive case. There's very little good side to something like this, and especially having our attention constantly on something like this. But one of the good sides that I've seen is that it's calling to attention this idea that we need to believe all women. What happened to the old adage of innocent until proven guilty? That sort of flew out the window, at least from a progressive perspective, when we saw this Me Too movement ushered into our cultural space and our discussions that we were having surrounding social issues, feminism, things like sexual abuse, and we got these hashtag Me Too movements and hashtag Believe All Women movements. What happens when the woman that you are meant to believe is lying? What happens when she has in fact created an utterly false situation and then pushed that false situation onto the world? And luckily, and it sounds horrible to say this, but luckily it happened to somebody like Johnny Depp, who has this massive following and so many eyes on him, so that the world could see this go underneath a magnifying glass. And so that we could watch this happen and come to the realization that, hey, maybe hashtag Believe All Women is not the smartest thing to say. Maybe that old adage of innocent until proven guilty is actually much better, because you can have people that manipulate the current cultural system that we're living in order to garner fame and sympathy and attention and to destroy the life of somebody that they claim to have once loved. This is one of the biggest shows of utter manipulation, not just of Johnny Depp and their relationship, but seemingly the world, using outlets like TMZ, who she claims to have not tipped off about this alleged abuse, even though it's seemingly proven that she has done exactly that. And I had a conversation earlier with my boyfriend about this situation, actually, because we were talking about, like, should this really be so public? You know, people do wrong things all the time and it goes through the justice system, or maybe it doesn't go through the justice system, but nobody has to deal with the entire world knowing about exactly what they've done and all of their eyes on them, as not only their falsehoods are being brought to light, but the entire nooks and crannies of their relationship is being displayed for all to see. But on this case with Amber Heard, I think it's completely justified. She's the one who brought this story into the public light. She's the one who tipped off the press to talk about exactly what had happened, I put in air quotes, in their relationship. She's the one who made what was meant to be a private issue that could have been handled privately a very, very public one in an effort to destroy a man's life. And now that's coming back full circle on her, and it's being displayed publicly. And I imagine that this is a vindication that not many people get to see in their lives. And I can only imagine the amount of men who have gone through a similar experience with ex-girlfriends or woman who has not liked them or had some sort of tiff with, and then she goes to the police or files for a restraining order against him, or just tells her friends and family or the community that he's done something that he has not done. How many men is this happening to? Where in this society of Believe All Women, we just let it slide and say, well, he's a horrible person, and we move on. And that man will be known as such for the rest of his life. And even if he takes it to court as some sort of case of defamation or a false report, he'll never be vindicated in the way that Johnny Depp has been vindicated, with millions and millions of eyes being on this day in and day out, watching everything that's happening. And we have to ask ourselves, why do we have to keep our eyes on this train wreck? Why do we have to watch these two people explain every single detail of what was meant to be a very private relationship and marriage? Is it because it's just there and we need something to entertain us? Is it because our lives lack purpose and meaning and we're all home and plugged into our screens anyway, so why not watch faces that we're familiar with? Is it because we are obsessed with celebrities? Is it because we have a love for justice? Is it because we are watching people who we thought had perfect, glamorous, star-studded lives, and it feels good to watch something like that fall apart, or it feels good to know that they go through situations that we've been through in our daily lives? I imagine it's a mix of all of these things. And if this trial gives you anything other than entertainment, sounds crazy to say, but hopefully it makes you take a look inward at why we feel the need to watch stuff like this. And here I am talking about it because everybody else is talking about it as well. But it does point out things that I think we should be talking about and discussions that we should be having. And it seems like all people involved know that this is sort of a performance. The lawyers on both sides of this case have been performing in a way. Amber Heard has certainly been performing. As Camille Vasquez said in her closing arguments, she talked about some of her movies being the biggest roles that she's ever had until this trial. Because I can say nothing more about Amber Heard than that. That was acting. Virtually every single piece of testimony that she gave, every time she testified, every time she answered a question, it seemed utterly clear to me that she was acting, putting on a show, and perjuring herself the entire time. I would love to see a charge of perjury come against Amber Heard, because she feels like she can just get up on the stand and, because of who she is, say whatever she wants. And for some reason, her body language and the way that she communicates comes off to me as if she thinks she's convincing people. And I don't know that anybody's convinced by that. I actually, one of the people that we work with here at PragerU sent me a message the other day, and he said, we got this really angry voicemail on one of the PragerU lines saying that I can't believe Amala would talk about Amber Heard and drag her through the mud like that when she's a victim of abuse. Huh? Excuse me? Where is the evidence for that? Because we're seeing time and time again that all of the claims that she has made against this man are false. Claims of heinous crimes are completely false. So if we've learned nothing else from this, maybe believe all women and hashtag Me Too movement was not the best thing for women in general, and especially victims of sexual assault, because a lot of women hopped on these hashtags with false allegations and with false claims. And what does that do for hashtag Believe All Women? It actually does the reverse of that. It's going to make us look at people who come forth with claims of sexual abuse and go, I don't know that you can substantiate that. I don't know that that's actually true. We saw it happen with Amber Heard. Is he really guilty of this? Or is he an innocent man being accused? So people who are actual victims, people who claim to be feminists or radical feminists, as we're now seeing in today's day and age, should be very upset with somebody like Amber Heard to completely undermine what happens to actual victims of sexual, physical, emotional abuse in their relationships, because a woman wanted fame, wanted to be seen and heard and looked at as a victim, and wanted Johnny Depp's life to be ruined. And she was very effective in doing so. He lost all of his roles. He lost a contract with Dior. He lost a lot of money. He lost his reputation in the public eye. And even if this trial goes through and they say she's completely guilty, this is defamation, give him the $50 million, you don't really get back all the time that was spent with people calling you an abuser and treating you as such, and your child's lives having your reputation of being an abuser attached to them as well. You don't ever get that back. So that's my final thoughts, I think, on this case. I imagine the jury is going to be in deliberation for a very short period of time, and that Amber Heard will not prevail in this case. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. Do you believe anything that Amber Heard has said during this trial? Are you thinking that Johnny Depp has gone completely unscathed in this? Do you think he's actually committed any sort of abuse and maybe we're not getting both sides of the story? Let me know your thoughts down below as we close out on what has been a very historic trial that we've not been able to keep our eyes off of. Let me know.